Tier 2, The Fog. Yeti Zombie. The Yeti is a reoccurring zombie in the Plants vs. Zombies games, and most people don't know this, but he was actually in the first game. Through your initial playthrough of Adventure Mode, you won't see him at all, but on subsequent playthroughs, he's guaranteed to spawn on the level 4-10. In this level, he'll slowly walk through the lawn for a short while, before turning around and attempt to retreat. And if you kill him, you get 5 diamonds, and each time you do it after on subsequent playthroughs, you'll get 4. He also has a chance to randomly spawn on other levels in your subsequent playthrough. He has been a pretty big character and coming back in future games, like in Garden Warfare games. He has different variants like the Treasure Yeti, Sasquatch, and Yeti King. Versus Mode. Versus Mode is a 2-player game mode featured in the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and Nintendo DS versions of Plants vs. Zombies. The goal for the zombies is pretty simple. You're trying to overwhelm the plants in an attempt to invade Dave's house and make him go bye-bye. But for the plants, to make it more interesting, you have to shoot down 3 target zombies that are lined up in the back row of the zombies' lanes. The further the player progresses through Adventure Mode, the more plants that'll be available in this. In this mode, like how plants would use sun to place plants, for the zombie side, it's brains instead. Still the same mechanic, they're just popping up and you have to press on them. This mode also includes 3 new zombies. The target zombies, like I mentioned, trash can zombies, and zombie gravestones. Trial of Gnomus. The Trials of Gnomus are areas in the Trials of Gnomus DLC in Garden Warfare 2 that can be accessed by getting trial keys from the 50 Rainbow Star chest in the Town Hall, which respawns each new portal event, or by getting the Torch and Tail upgrade DLC. This chest will always drop a trial key. Every trial has a different goal to accomplish, and after beating the trial, a code will be revealed, which can then be used to unleash the Guardian of the corresponding color. After defeating this Guardian, a stone bust will explode, revealing a portal that'll take the player to a chest, either containing a legendary cosmetic or backyard battleground item. I never knew about this when it came out, but it looks really well made, and that's kind of shocking for just a one-off thing in Garden Warfare 2. Dark Horse Comics. Dark Horse Comics has published the entire series of Plants vs. Zombies comics, which I didn't know this franchise had any comics until now. And even the main characters of Plants vs. Zombies 3 were based off of the comics, and a lot of characters in the comics also get mentioned in the games, which I'll talk about in later entries. Slender Man Easter Egg. God, I love weird Easter eggs like this, and for the time it makes so much sense. In the woods of Zomboss Estate in Garden Warfare 1, if you look through these trees, Slender Man can be seen. And this Easter egg got so popular that PopCap decided to update it when they released the Tactical Taco Party DLC. So now, when you go and try to check on Slender Man, he's getting eaten alive by a chomper. Rule 34. Weird-ass costumes. This entry refers to weird costumes that were made for Halloween. There's a shockingly large amount of these, and I'm surprised they're even still available for sale. The site that was linked in the Iceberg, and that seems to have the most costumes, is just called HalloweenCostumes.com. And I will put a link to that in the description, because I know it's goofy enough for a lot of people to buy, just hearing about it. plants.exe. plants.exe was a pretty well-known creepypasta made by Mooplerish in late 2011. This creepypasta is so bad that it was actually deleted off of the creepypasta site and put onto the Trollpasta wiki. To sum up this one a little bit, so you don't have to read the entire multi-paragraph long creepypasta, it basically revolves around someone downloading a hacked version of Plants vs. Zombies where the gravestones in the game had names of recently deceased celebrities, and after every level, the pitch and volume of the music would get louder. And the protagonist of this creepypasta decided to not mute the music until the very last level for some reason. I know, very scary stuff. And after beating the final level, it went to a black screen with white text on it saying, "Why did you do this to us?" I wondered what that meant, he said. And later on, when he unmuted the music again, there was a level that didn't have any music. Split in half, 2 lawns on either side of the map. I know, this is getting intriguing. As he planted plants, he saw other plants be planted on the other side as well. Well, I'll just read this excerpt for you. A pea shooter appeared, except this pea shooter looked really creepy. In the place of eyes were dark, soulless voids. Unlike with most creepypastas I read, the eyes didn't have a red pupil in the middle or anything, just dark, soulless voids. It started firing peas at the sunflower that I had in my row, except the peas it fired looked old and diseased. It ended up killing my sunflower, like in Zombotany. Then, after that, 2 sunflowers were planted in the lane above it, and they had the same dark, soulless voids for eyes. Whenever one of the plants on the other side was planted, the screen grew a bit darker and less saturated. After he loses this level, after the screen gets so dark to the point where it's pitch black, he heard the normal zombie crunching sound you'd hear when you lose. And instead of the normal yelling you'd hear once you lose a level of Plants vs. Zombies, the screen turned vertically striped and red, and a loud, distorted scream played. Then the game closed itself. I know, it's okay to get scared. Anyways, this is basically just an infamously bad creepypasta, so bad to the point where it got deleted. The only way I could find it is on the wiki page. Ice level. The ice level is one of the 17 hidden mini-games in the Limbo page, an entry later on that I'll talk about, which can only be played using a cheat engine or a Plants vs. Zombies toolkit. The mini-game was considered useless as no one knew how to play it, and it only had 6 seed slots, with the plants pea shooter, cherry bomb, walnut, repeater, snow pea, and chomper. Little insert here. As I'm editing, I realized in the original recording, I believed that the level was just never complete. But with some more research, I found out that it's actually an April Fool's prank. George Fan said this on Twitter. Pretty good April Fool's prank, pranking people for over a decade? A little over? Rux. This is Rux, a character who was released in the Trials of Gnomus DLC that owns a shop called Rux's Bazaar. He sold many different cosmetics, the most interesting of which were exclusive legendary customizations that cost 500,000 coins, classic items referring to gestures and customizations from the original Garden Warfare that were 50,000, and legendary character pieces that cost 1,000,000 coins. His stock changed every time he appears, and also he has returned for the Battle for Neighborville game, selling items for rainbow stars instead of coins. Crazy Dave model. So this entry I'm not 100% sure on. It's hard to find very much information about it aside from a couple Reddit posts, but there was a model of Crazy Dave found in the files of Garden Warfare, suggesting that he was going to be in the game as an actual character and not just announcer. My thinking is that if this is real, it's probably a scrapped idea of having him in some sort of campaign type thing or for some form of announcements, but I realized for Garden Warfare 1, he was just a PNG, so I really don't know what he was doing in this game. Google Translate. This one's very short, but Penny the time-traveling RV's translator is called Google Translate. Short, I know, but I think it's funny enough to get a quick little insert here. Cheat codes. In the first Plants vs. Zombies, you could put in cheat codes to change certain aspects of the game. None were necessarily game-changing, but they did add some funny cosmetics, like if you put in future or mustache, it would add futuristic sunglasses or mustaches to the zombies. These codes could be put in on PC, but also the console versions of the games. On console, you'd have to press both triggers and bumpers at the same time, and then a menu would pop up. From what I could find, there's 8 different cheat codes, and 3 of them require reaching certain heights with a Tree of Wisdom. Giga-Gargantuar. The Giga-Gargantuar, or however you pronounce this, is the second strongest zombie after Dr. Zomboss. It is a Gargantuar with red eyes that is only seen in these levels. This zombie has double the health of a normal Gargantuar, having 6,000 HP, and in the Social Edition version of the Almanac, it stated that he is the overlord in the zombie base camp, and even his own people will avoid him and make a detour. The Limbo page. The Limbo page is a hidden amount of data in the PC version of Plants vs. Zombies that contains 20 mini-games, along with 4 variations of Survival Endless Mode. These were going to be added into the game, but were eventually cancelled. Some players think that they were hidden for us to find and use a hacking program to access, so it does suck that we missed out on some mini games, but with these cheat engines, I guess we didn't. Plants vs. Zombies DS Edition. There's a DS version of Plants vs. Zombies that is pretty much the same, aside from the music being oddly off-key, which I'll let you listen to here. Don't mind that it's a SpongeBob meme.
Well, you can't play music with a piece of paper!
Hooray! Hooray! That was great, Squidward. All those wrong notes you play made it sound more original.
What? I didn't play any wrong notes.
Yeah, see, you're playing it like this. When ordinarily it goes like this. I'm partially doing it in the key of A minor myself.
And the game does look quite a bit different, being downgraded in a way, which is kind of weird because it was on iPhone. It seems weird to do a port to this anyways. But I do really like this style that they went for here. And speaking of style, Plants vs. Zombies Stylus. Also, the DS edition of Plants vs. Zombies was my girlfriend's first experience with the franchise. That's not something you get to hear every day. Mr. Stubbins. Mr. Stubbins is one of the minor antagonists of the Plants vs. Zombies comic series. He made his debut in Plants vs. Zombies Bully for You, and he is currently Dr. Zomboss's pet, who supports him for his schemes. Despite being a hedgehog, Mr. Stubbins is intelligent, as he could pilot vehicles, build robots, and even prevent Dr. Zomboss from stealing his machine. And while not physically appearing in Battle for Neighborville or any other mainline game, he was mentioned several times in Battle for Neighborville by Dr. Zomboss. Plasma P was made from a contest. Pretty soon after the launch of Garden Warfare 1 in 2014, PubCap decided to hold a contest for which new variant would be added to the game. And the Plasma P won. I had no clue about this, and at least from my experience, this guy is one of the more iconic variants of the series. I'm a gnome! No, not him. In Garden Warfare 2, once you've collected all of the golden gnomes, this song would play.
I'm a gnome, yes I am a gnome. On the lawn with my swan and my fawn, yeah. I'm a gnome, I'm a garden gnome. The lack of being real is the source of my appeal.
Short entry, I know, but it's weird, funny, and oddly really good. I love the song. Boss Mode. Boss Mode is a playable class in Garden Warfare 1 for both the plants and zombies. It works very differently from other classes, as it's not an actual character that does combat or support up front in the battlefield, but rather, it's a flying vehicle up in the air. The point of view is also very different, as every plant and zombie present on the field can be seen through a bird's eye view of the map. You would be able to deploy spotting, healing, and reviving stations along with an airstrike. The aircraft was also the highest health in the game among the playable classes, with a total of 2,000 health. To gather up resources to do any of these reinforcements on either side, you'd have to get sun for the plants and brains for the zombie side. I remember loving playing this mode a lot, and it actually felt like the mobile games quite a bit, but unfortunately, it didn't return for Garden Warfare 2. But here's hoping for if they ever decide to make a Garden Warfare 3, that it'll be playable again. Co-op mode. A bit shorter of an entry, but co-op mode is a game mode that only appears in the Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Network versions of Plants vs. Zombies. You would be able to play with a friend in this mode and have 11 unique levels to go through. Aside from the UI being obviously quite a bit different, pretty much just the same game, but you get to play with someone. Plants vs. Goblins. Haha, what a nice day in Neighborville. I'm sure no one will turn me into a Plants vs. Goblins, baby, that's right. This is the original— No, I'm just kidding. Plants vs. Goblins is the notorious ripoff of Plants vs. Zombies. Now, before reading up on this entry, I had no clue what this actually was, and I was thinking, oh, there might be just this game, maybe 2. Doubt if there's 3. There is 6 Plants vs. Goblins games. I mean, it's gotta be amazing. I mean, who doesn't love Zebra Media Software games like Imposter Camille, Plants vs. Zombies Minecraft mod? So there is like an oddly, really well-made Plants vs. Zombies Minecraft mod. So I decided to hop into it and see what it was like. And this mod is crazy. There's all the plants and zombies I could remember from the first game, and a lot of extra things that if you're a Plants vs. Zombies fan, you'll just love, like having the zombie football player armor to actually wear, and having a sort of pea shooter arm that you could shoot from. This is, like, no joke, one of the best mods I've seen that's based off of another franchise. I really like this mod. The Art of Plants vs. Zombies. This entry is about an art book full of things that never got into Plants vs. Zombies. Things like old concept art and concept art that, well, shaped the series, such as this zombie at the top right of all of these concepts. That's the main guy. That's the brown coat. Very good book. It shows how the franchise could have turned in some different directions in art style. And look at this Garden Warfare concept art. This is just amazing. Risk Plants vs. Zombies edition. So you know Risk? The board game? You know what would make it even better? Plants vs. Zombies would. Now Risk isn't a stranger to collaborations for the board game. I mean, they have other war titles like Halo, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. But I guess the real war series they were missing out on was the Battle for Neighborville. Plants vs. Zombies is, after all, the best war series out there. This is actually a very good collab. Obviously, it's a lot of references to Plants vs. Zombies on the board, but the actual models themselves also look really well detailed. Why there's an Xbox One game stuck to my ceiling. So this entry is kind of funny, kind of scary, and kind of weird, so it's a bit hard to sum up. So I'll read this article that was an interview on the guy of this story. I can explain. I was playing something or another on Steam the other night while sitting in my office watching the children, who were in an entirely different room, but that's besides the point. As I was playing, I leaned back in my chair and happened to spot a spider the size of a small Volkswagen on the ceiling directly above my head. With most of my body frozen in fear, my right hand took it upon itself to act, searching over my desk for something capable of disabling the forward scout of a potential arachnid army from a safe range, say New Jersey. An empty monster can? Too light. Too little spider slaying surface. Lemon pledge? No, that would just cause it to fall in my mouth. And the only thing worse than a spider in your mouth is a citrus spider in your mouth. Finally, my right hand grasped hope. Pushing back the desk slowly, I shook the can of spray adhesive vigorously, removed the cap, aimed, and fired. Within milliseconds, the large black spider was a large frosted black spider, the sort you may find in your cereal box if you have the sort of nightmares that I do. It took a few small steps across the ceiling and then froze in place. My weapon was effective. Or was it? What if the spider was faking, waiting for me to resume my game before adhering itself to my face? And wasn't an adhesive-coated spider hanging above my head any better than a regular one? I had to finish the job. I reached for the first firm, flat thing I could find, and I squished. And that's why Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare for the Xbox One is firmly stuck to my office ceiling. It's been there since yesterday and shows no signs of coming down anytime soon. Well, I think this guy was right about it not coming down anytime soon, because this article is old. There's been an updated version. Now, the Garden Warfare copy has been stuck to his ceiling for 5 years. So yeah, that's how Garden Warfare saved this guy from a spider. Patrice, I don't know how to say her name. Patrice Blazing is the main character of the comic book series. She's Crazy Dave's 11-year-old niece and battles against zombies alongside her Uncle Dave and her friend Nate Timely. She appears in every comic and has a massive role in the new / sort of half-released Plants vs. Zombies 3. And according to the wiki, her favorite plant is sunflower. She speaks English, French, Italian, and Crazy Dave. And she can understand 84% of Crazy Dave's words. Nate Timely, otherwise known as Nathan or just Nate, is another character in the comics. He's an 11-year-old aspiring explorer who battles zombies alongside Patrice Blazing and Crazy Dave. He's appeared in all 12 comic books, and just like Patrice, he has some weird wiki information on him. Quote, he has been known to have eaten 284 candy pieces in a single day. These two characters are very important to the comics. There's just not a whole lot to say about them, aside from what they actually do in the comics, which is basically just fighting zombies. Ask a Zombie. Ask a Zombie was a series of blog posts on the official PopCap Games website's blog section that ran from 2011 to 2014, written in character by a newspaper zombie, simply addressed as Zombie. The series consisted of funny and wholesome responses to questions sent in by fans, and there was 75 editions of it made, until it was discontinued, and since the site has been taken down, the only way that I could see of reading these are from the actual wiki. Plants vs. Zombies Match. So you've probably never heard of this one, and neither did I. They had 2 playtests for a short time and has since been unavailable. These playtests spanned 2 months combined, but the actual gameplay was a basic Match 3 game. There's ROMs of it that you can play, but I don't know why they didn't just release it, especially since it looks like a genuinely well-made game, and even if it was pretty similar to Candy Crush, Plants vs. Zombies fans are going to play any Plants vs. Zombies game that comes out, so hopefully they'll release it at some point. Gravedigger. The Gravedigger was going to be the support class for the zombies in Garden Warfare 1. Despite never being mentioned really, we do know a good bit about him. Like we know what his abilities would have been. The first one being a pretty basic grenade, and according to Justin Vibe, however you say that, someone who actually worked on the game, the second ability would have been able to raise AI zombies from his big tombstone, and his third ability being able to use that big tombstone on his back as a shield. Now I love the Scientist as a support class, but come on, this guy is sick. And despite him never being playable, we have seen some mentions of him in Garden Warfare 2. Like there's this image where it shows him and has his name with a big red X on it. And on the map Zombopolis, he appears in this ad for old-timey photos here on the left. And finally, seeing a full 3D model in game, he actually made an appearance on the Z-Tech factory map, where he just sits in this test tube. But hey, at least we got to see him. Plants vs. Zombies Adventures. Plants vs. Zombies Adventures was a Facebook-only tower defense game that was in beta, but got cancelled later on. The main gameplay of it was a mode called Road Trip, where you would take between 15 and 25 plants from your city and go out on a road trip with them. The gameplay was somewhat similar to the normal style of Plants vs. Zombies, aside from the weird isometric view, and not really having the same sun mechanic. Sure, sun did exist, but instead of using it to place plants, you would use it to revive the ones that had died. In this game, you could also spend coins you got while on road trips to attack other players' cities, which I assume also means Facebook friends, with zombies. It's a cool concept for a game, but it never really took off. Plants vs. Zombies Adventures being cancelled is also kind of sucky because, well, you'll see in this next entry. And for the last entry on this tier, Matilda, Bert, Dottie, and Officer Ron. All of these names are names of characters that appeared in the Plants vs. Zombies Adventures game. They're some of the only humans ever mentioned in the franchise, and they only appeared in this game. Almost half of all of the humans mentioned in this franchise are from this game, and even looking at the list of humans, one of them doesn't even have a picture. Thank you guys so much for watching. By the way, I have a free Patreon in the description where you can vote on the next Iceberg series that I'll do, and if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe.